We'll now be moving on to our next segment, Richard.
Absolutely. And I know we did want to come back to some of the news stories. I know Chat had mentioned them and that they were on our agenda to discuss about North Carolina. I know for sure we wanted to mention, and I think that, and Alabama, I believe, too. And there was a couple other things that we wanted to get to. So if you wanted to, like, I don't know if we want to touch on those now or.
Yeah, sure.
Dive in.
I can go on talking all day. So, yeah, we have the last stories we have are 3 stories that have come about the last couple of days, and they have to do with my home state of North Carolina and their LGTB legislation with regards to bathrooms. So what happened was earlier this week, the Department of Justice wrote a letter to the North Carolina legislature telling them that their HB2 bill, their law, it's not a bill anymore, it's an enacted law, unfortunately, violates the Civil Rights Acts of Title IX and I believe Title VI. And this is a pretty big deal because so far it's only been celebrities and a couple of corporations that has spoken out about it. But the Department of Justice actually urging the legislature to reconsider their law and getting it in line with the Civil Rights Act is a pretty big step to be taken from the Obama administration. Unfortunately, the response by North Carolina State House Speaker Tim Moore says that we will take no action by Monday. The deadline will come and go. We don't ever want to lose any money, but we are not going to get bullied by the Obama administration to take action prior to the deadline set. That's not how this works. I don't know what he's talking about when he say this works, if he means being in violation of the Civil Rights Act. But for those of us who had hoped that it could end here, it seems like it will take a case being brought to the Supreme Court for this to be finally put to rest as actually being what it is in violation of the Civil Rights Act. We are hoping to bring you some personal stories here from North Carolina about this, how it affects everyday people, parents of children, how it affects, well, the children themselves, and how it affects adults. And I can tell you that in Alabama, the city of Alabama, they also did a bathroom bill some months ago, but they have now recalled it because they could see that it was a draconian law and that it was against the Civil Rights Act, reports the Washington Post. Their bill would have punished violations, meaning a woman walking into a woman's bathroom. They would have punished that violation with up to 6 months incarceration. So it has been recalled, fortunately. We can only hope that North Carolina state legislature will follow suit. And as I said, we hope to bring you some more personal stories and interviews here from North Carolina, how this legislation and even the attitude that has allowed this kind of legislation to be passed in North Carolina, how this affects people in every day. If you yourself have been experiencing discrimination of this sort, or have know of situations or even organizations who are fighting laws like these, please have them contact us, tell us about these stories. They, in my opinion, my personal opinion, which is on this issue in no way objective, have to stop. It's that simple. Yeah, so those were the 3 last stories that have been breaking over the last couple of days, at least domestically, that I wanted to get into. Richard, I know that you have recently been at a Seattle State Convention in seeing democracy unfold in front of your eyes in a 3.5 hour long session. Why don't you tell us something about your experience and show the footage that you have created?
Absolutely, thank you, Nis. And I just wanted to mention on the discrimination law out of North Carolina in particular, I've seen reports that essentially it was somewhat of a Trojan horse, probably a bad example, but essentially that there's suspicions that they intentionally put that provocative thing to draw attention away from some other parts of the bill. I haven't had a chance to actually dive into the bill itself to know exactly what people are talking about, but that they're saying that there are a lot of other very questionable things that were attached with that, and that the headlines were focused on that part of it, and so that they're going to probably end up scrapping that part and then keeping the rest and hoping that that flies under the radar as a result. So keep an eye on that, folks, and pay attention. Especially, I know folks in North Carolina especially are paying attention, but it's important that all of us around the country pay attention, because as was pointed out by some people on Twitter and elsewhere, some of the Democrats some of the people that voted for that law are Democrats and are supporting Hillary Clinton, and so it's important to know where the appeal is and who it is and who's supporting these types of bills, and know that it's not always just a strictly party line thing. So you can't assume that because you're voting for somebody with a D next to their name that they're not going to support something like this, particularly in North Carolina. And so I think that's really important. But as far as my experience at the convention, on a somewhat lighter note, you mentioned 3.5 hours. It was 3.5 hours to get seated, and that seated is not necessarily as in to go and take a seat. That only took a few moments. How the process works is the delegates. All right, I don't know if everybody's familiar with what the county convention is, but essentially what it is, I'll start there, is that the delegates that were elected at the precinct and legislative district level for Bernie and Hillary go to the Democratic Party platform convention for the local county. And at the local county level, we discuss resolutions, our platform as a county, and recommendations that we want to make to the state party, essentially. And so in that process, one of the things that you have to do is you have to seat the delegates, which is essentially finding out who those people are, did they show up, and making sure that they get their credentials, so that when votes are called, that we can identify that the person that's voting has a right to vote, or whatever, has by the rules influence in the decisions on the party, on the platform, on those types of things. And so that process, which essentially is going in, they have binders full of names for each district, or divided however that particular place does it. Usually a couple districts are per person, and you can line up and they find your name, and hopefully you've been properly registered by the folks that were supposed to send the information on to the party, and hopefully that information came back out of the party to the people that needed that information at that point. We had issues at the precinct level, definitely, with that, and less, but still plenty of issues at the legislative district with that, or I should say at the convention and the legislative district. And so that process shouldn't take quite that long. I mean, we were supposed to have, I want to say, around 1,500 to 2,000 delegates show up. There were only 500-ish, so there was a significant drop-off. There was definitely more Bernie than Hillary. I'm proportionally, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it looked like they proportionately dropped about the same, and so that didn't influence the level of influence that we had at this particular convention. But it was a disappointing turnout. There was an issue of people being under the impression that they had to. Excuse me, I don't know why I've been doing this the whole time, making you sit on screen with me. Sorry about that, Nis. And so there was an issue about people having to donate $25 to $50 to get there. There's confusion because there is a fee to be a seated delegate at the state level of $50. It was just a suggested fee at the county level convention in order to pay for the building. One of the clips that I'm going to show has some on it. And actually, you know what? That's actually a good time to show you what it looked like in general there. So let me just pull that up here real quick. Did that make sense to you, Nis, while I'm getting that ready?
Yeah. I mean, we have to remember that how the sauce is made is never a pretty sight. But as long as it doesn't involve kickbacks and millions of dollars, I can't see how the process itself shouldn't just be open to the public. I can't see how there has to be closed rooms, closed doors, and all this secrecy. I mean, when you're talking national security, of course, it makes some sense. But why it shouldn't just be as transparent as can be, and not just transparent, but easily transparent, so that it doesn't take a political science major to sift through the information.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and we'll get maybe I'll be able to. I don't think I found a digital copy of the county platform yet, but if I am able to find it, I'll make sure to throw it in the description of the shortened up version of this clip or something, and so that you can find what we actually ended up voting on. But right now I have the video just to give you an idea of the size and how many. This is not the most people that were in the room at the time or throughout the event, but it's a pretty good feel of about how many people showed up versus how many people were expected. You don't get to see behind us where we had, my particular district had 100-something delegates selected, and probably a couple dozen of us showed up. So I was disappointed there, but anyway, here's the video.
Right here in Washington and Congress is a battleground county. Right here in Washington, and Congressman Kilmer just mentioned it, we have a Republican-controlled Senate, we have a slim majority in the House, and with your help, 2016 can be an incredible year for Democrats. So let me ask you this, and I'm going to conclude. Let me ask you this. Standing together, can we elect a Democratic president and make sure that Jay Inslee stays as our governor? What do you say, Democrats?
And I know Nis, due to our studio setup at the moment, Nis wasn't able to actually witness that live, so he may be being able to see it on his monitor now as we're talking. And so just to give him an idea of what we're looking at. But then what Nis didn't hear, most likely, is that over the speaker, the audience heard a woman asking, "Are we ready to elect a Democrat president?" and mentioned Governor Inslee, and asked if we were going to be able to support Inslee. And there's very mixed reaction there, and that particular room is strongly Bernie favored. And so we have some issues with a lot of our super delegates not appreciating our particular perspectives on who we'd like them to vote for. And so when the party comes to us saying that they want us to get in line behind somebody that's had somewhat of a lacking performance in general, the enthusiasm was not quite there, as you'll see later, versus something like when we were voting to, as a party and platform, be against TPP for a variety of reasons. So I guess, let me just take a peek here on what the next one, was from, the next clip I have is from the TPP section. And what I really want to do here is give our viewers an opportunity to see what's happening when you hear or don't hear a report about the state level convention or the county level conventions where things are going on. This is the type of room that it is. This is generally how it goes, and it's generally operating under what's called Robert's Rules of Order or whatever. And if you're not familiar, it's basically a long built compendium of rules about how to organize groups and to make rules and so on and so forth. So similar to how Congress has their rules about how they decide what they're going to pass, or if they're going to pass, or who gets to speak, and all those kinds of things. It handles those, and it's supposed to be accessible for a common person, but we do have some issues with, I know myself, I don't know, Nis has familiarity with it, but I know myself, I'm not keen on the nuance of it, and so I'm pretty much flying by the seat of my pants and trusting that other people know what the rules are. And so, Nis, are you familiar with Robert's Rules at all?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, and so that is, oh, sorry. Seems to be that we're getting some
There seems
static.
to be some. Yeah, let's see if muting me helps.
It's like, I'm not hearing it, so it might be on my side somehow. I don't. Maybe, maybe it's my hair's rubbing the mic. Maybe I don't know what kind of static we're getting. So I apologize for that, and apologize for not seeing that there. Or I don't know. We have to wait for the delay to see if we're getting the results we're looking for here. So apologize for that. Again, still working out some technical issues. I appreciate you all bearing with us, and just about 45 minutes away from the Benjamin Dixon show. So just want to thank you guys again for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe to the channel to know when we or Anoa or any of the other upcoming shows go live, and especially the Benjamin Dixon show. And okay, looks like we were having some sort of static from Nis, so hopefully we'll be able to sort that out. Otherwise, we're just going to go ahead, and once I get this queued up here for us, we will go to the video so you can see what it was like passing that resolution I mentioned about TPP. And here we go.
Motion passes. Proposed resolution number 5, reject the Trans-Pacific Partnership for economic, political, and humanitarian reasons. Moved and seconded. Anyone wish to comment? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your card. All those opposed?
One comment.
Pass.
One comment.
Item number 6, I hear a point of order. Someone is yelling.
One comment.
Where are you? Thank you.
Make it good.
I had a comment on number, what is it, on the trans.
We already voted. It's off.
I know, but and you didn't.
We've already moved on. Thank you. Item number 6, failure to enforce trade laws.
That was the current one. We adopted it though, didn't we?
Ma'am, we voted. We all voted on it. It's already moved.
At the part where somebody
Madam Chair.
made an argument.
We've already moved on.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair,
Be longer than just
Yes.
your talk.
this woman that wanted to speak, she had her hand up at the beginning. She had her hand up the whole time. Now, maybe people need to be told to stand up, but there might be some people that can't stand up, so I think we need to take a little more care in looking around to see if anybody has something to say.
At the discretion of the chair, please speak.
I would like an addition to that, in that there should be something on there for re-education of people that have lost their jobs. And I don't see anything on the resolutions or on the, whatever it's called, that says anything about that in any of these papers that I'm reading.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, and so what you see there, along with the vote of passing the resolution, is what can happen when Robert's Rules and a large group of people and 4 or 5 hours of waiting to get on with the meeting, and the natural contention of political discourse and a variety of audience members that can be of varying levels of informed, whether it be on the resolution itself, the process, or how it goes about. And as you saw there, and I think a lot of people noticed at the time, was that the chair was a bit rough with the whole situation. And I think a lot of Bernie supporters, you heard some gasping and some sighing and some like, well, wait a minute, and like we wanted to move along quickly. Lots of people wanted to do that, and so you could tell he was in a rush, that the chair was. But at the same time, he was a little overly dismissive of somebody wanting to speak, and that he had missed her following the proper rules, and in order to do that. And so things like that happen on the House and Congress floor all the time, where people will try to break the rules, and if nobody's there to call them on it, they can get away with it. Or if the temperature of the room is such a way that the people have the opinion that, you know, we just need to get past this and move on to the next thing, rules can get broken, and voices can be closed out or shut down. And that's just one part of what happens in the messiness of democracy. And so I thought it was really important that people see that part. And I know Nis wasn't able to actually see all of that, but hopefully that description gave him enough that he was able to...
We have a question concerning the video. Digita83 thought he heard them call out protect the TPP, and someone else thinks that they said reject the TPP. Can you clarify for them?
Yes, just so that everybody knows, the resolutions are presented in text, and most of them were able to get submitted with the platform that people unfortunately weren't able to look at before this meeting, but were given when they arrived, or were able to access when they arrived, so they could read through it while we were waiting for everything to take place. And in that it said reject the TPP. And so at least my county will be telling Washington State Democrats that the Democratic platform at the National Convention will need to support, or will need to reject the TPP. And so hopefully other Washington counties get on board, and hopefully we can get that adopted at the state level. That's why it's important for every single delegate to show up to make sure that we can get every single vote. If people think that it's over and it doesn't matter anymore, the voting and what good could it do to go to a state convention, it's critical that you show up to the state convention, so that not only that we can get those things on the platform from the state level, but that we can hold people accountable. One of the other resolutions that we're putting forward is regarding our super delegates and how we would like them to move forward. And so I'll just actually jump right into that, because we're starting to get a little short, and I did want to cover quite a bit about Cinco de Mayo. And so I'll just get into this real quickly. Let me get it queued up here. Audio here. And I think this is at the right spot, and it's a bit long, so just bear with me. I just again want to reiterate how I want to show everyone what this process looks like for those of you who had never been to something like this, or maybe not even participated in a student government type thing where you do a very small mocked version of this. Coincidentally, I did at the same facility at Pierce College, and so I have some familiarity with this. So it was interesting for me personally to see the difference between when it was, 5 of us on a council and 2 people who showed up to listen to us, one from the newspaper who also happened to be part of the student government, and one person that just happened to be passing by, kind of thing. And so to see this with what was a poor turnout considering, but was still a lot more people than would typically go to something like this, I thought it was very important to see how that actually functions. So here we go. There we go.
Hi, my name is Lee Hubert. I'm from the 27464. I want to suggest that we consider amending this to only essentially have this take place in the event of a candidate receiving a majority of the delegates. We've seen I don't want to have unintended consequences essentially of this, but if we had a race of more than 2 people, as stated, I believe this resolution could result in the opposite effect that the grassroots movement is looking for. I just wanted to put that. I haven't thought about the wording of it quite yet, because I'm looking at this pretty newly, so I don't know about the exact wording, but just wanted to put that thought out there. It'd be very easy to amend. If a candidate wins the majority of the delegates, then the unpledged delegates would be required to vote with the pledged delegates.
Sir, I believe that can be considered at the state level.
Okay.
Is there any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a comment, just a point of information. The time is now 6:08 p.m. We are now trying to run top field dragster on a super stock budget. Thank you.
I'd like to move to amend.
Please.
I don't know. I wasn't really quite sure what.
In light of seeking proportional representation, which is what we're having an issue with the superdelegates, winner take all is not any more proportional than the situation we have right now. And to address his point, if we had more than 2 people in the race, I would like to propose instead of requiring them all to cast their vote for the candidate who won the most pledged delegates, I would like to propose that they are required to vote proportional to the public vote.
Yeah, second.
That has been moved and seconded. Does anyone wish to speak to this? Bella.
If this happened, how would we determine which elected and unpledged delegates would vote for each particular candidate? And if that went against their opinion?
I don't know, how did he get selected now? At least we'll have a say-so in that process.
Who else we got? We need, okay, where did you go? The lady who made the amendment, please come to the front. Other comments?
Is it all right?
Yes.
Chair, bro.
Lady in black.
Mr. Chair, are we looking for a affirmative, someone in support or someone against the amendment?
Against.
Oh, well then that's me. I've been waiting to talk. I actually considered amendment very close to what was just proposed. It is something I've been thinking about for requiring, it would be too difficult to decide which of the superdelegates would be required to vote for which candidate.
Oh, well, let's just listen to you then, huh?
Is there any other comments? Seeing none, we're going to take a vote. All those in favor of that amendment, please raise your hand. This is for the proportionality amendment. All those in favor, please raise your card. Drop them. All those opposed? Motion passed. Motion fails. Amendment has failed. We are now to the underlying resolution to amend the charter of the Washington State Democratic Party. All those in favor, please raise your card. Drop them. All those opposed?
Sorted at the state level, in which case
resolution passes.
So there, what you saw there was at the very beginning, you saw discussion about amending the resolution so that the superdelegates were awarded proportionally as opposed to winner take all. And then you saw some discussion between different perspectives on that. And what you're seeing there, and I tried to play out as much as I could, time permitting, is just what this process looks like, in that it's not a well-oiled, smooth process. And one of the reasons I think that honest, good people can end up trying to push people out of the process is just in like any group project. You can have group members that are helping your group succeed, and you can have group members that are hurting your group. And I think in an effort to prevent people that are going to hurt the order, the functionality of a meeting like that. So let's say if somebody was constantly interrupting people that were on the microphone, or if they were doing various other things, in order to discourage those types of people from showing up to an event like this, or smaller precinct or local level events, they end up blocking out people who just may not be used to it, may not know the rules, may have grown up in different circumstances where learning the rules wasn't really an option for them, or not anything on their priority list anyway. And there's just a whole lot of people that end up getting shut out instead of just the people that are there to be unruly in a way that isn't productive, that doesn't bring attention to important issues or anything along those lines. And so, but beyond that, it makes it tough to do all of this. What I didn't show you, and I was thinking about putting together a highlight, but I had some technical issues with my computer and my editing software, was just some of the repeated rudeness that came from the people speaking towards the audience, some of the rudeness back from the audience towards those speaking, and just some of the realness that happens at a local political level. And so I think people if you haven't gone to a local meeting, please go. Find it. It may be hard to find. Lots of your local groups have local pages up, especially with Bernie supporters. So if that's where you're at, then that's a really great way to get it in. And the more of you that show up, the more influence you have when decisions get made. One of an old adage or whatever is whoever's not at the table is the one that's going to get hosed. And so if you're not showing up to the tables where they're making decisions about what's going on in your city, your county, your state, then you're not going to get considered. That's just what the reality of our political situation today. And so with that in mind, I really, really hope that the sloppiness or the messiness that is democracy doesn't put you off from engaging at all. You don't have to go to meetings where there's 1,000 people or 500 people. Just going to meetings where there's normally 5 people and you showing up can be all the difference. Or if there's normally 6, you could be that person that swings it towards the Democrats that think like you do. And so it's really important that you show up and that you get engaged wherever you can, whether that's within the Democratic Party, the Green Party, if you want to try and start a new party. All those are things that I would like to get more into, but I really wanted to cover Cinco de Mayo, and so I'm going to make sure I leave myself some time for that.